In this video, I'm going to highlight 7 common food photography mistakes that you should be aware of. And we will also look at the images that I recently critiqued where those same common mistakes came up again and again. And I also show how I help the photographers identify them and what to do about them. On our platform at Carl Taylor Education, as well as our live photography workshops, brief challenges and talk shows, we also hold regular photography critiques for our members. A recent critique was on the subject of food photography, and I was surprised at how many times the same problems kept surfacing across a variety of different food photography shots, especially from so many different photographers. To help you take better food photographs, I've summarised some of the key points to keep in mind when photographing food to help avoid these common problems. Number 1, the hero not being clear. Although it might sound obvious, you'd be surprised at how easy it can be to get caught up in creating a shot but lose sight of what the hero is. It's applicable to all types of photography, but the key to great food photography is to elevate the hero and subdue the supporting cast. 2 of the easiest ways to do this is through composition and lighting. When it comes to the composition, the hero doesn't have to necessarily be in the centre of the frame. It doesn't even need to be entirely in the frame, but it should be the main focus. Think about using smaller or less significant items to guide the viewer's eye to the subject, or even props that help point to the subject. Lighting can also be used to guide the viewer's attention to the hero, and we can easily use many different lighting techniques to make the subject stand out. Here are some examples I identified where photographers struggled in this critique. The main hero of the shot, which has to be these, because this is the key item, they're not standing out enough. So if we look at my layers, I just bring them out a little bit more. These are what I would call schoolboy errors to do with clarity of message. Now, if we look at this, you have to say that this here is meant to be the hero of the shot, not this. So why is this so much brighter than this? And then this ladle, or whatever you call this, that's dripping the sauce on, should also be the hero of the shot, and yet it's starting to become camouflaged into the background. We also have quite a lot of brighter exposure over on the right. So I just made some quick fixes such as that. Let me turn that on and off for you again. That and that. The heroes are meant to be those glasses in the middle, and they don't ping out enough. They're almost getting a bit camouflaged into the background. So a very simple contrast, burn and dodge, and all of a sudden the heroes pop out. Can you honestly say to yourself, yeah, that hero jumps out of that shot, and that's what the shot is all about? And if you can't say that, then do something about it. Same problem again, very simple. Hero, what's the hero? Let's have a look, switch it on, bang. Switch it off, ooh. Switch it on, bang. Number 2, no clear narrative. A top tip from professional food photographer and stylist Anna Pushtanikova is that all good food images should tell a story. The story could be as simple or as complex as you like, and can be told using a combination of backgrounds, props, and lighting. Whatever story you're trying to tell, whether that be of a classic family recipe for soup or a mixture of herbs used to season the very best steak, the image should create desire and invoke emotion in the viewer. Number 3, an overpowering supporting cast. Food photography can often involve a number of different props, from teapots to chopping boards, napkins to fresh ingredients. The trick to creating a cohesive image is to think carefully about what props you want to include. Does the item fit with the scene you're trying to create? A rustic wooden chopping board would work well for a shot of a burger, but maybe not for sushi. It's important to consider every item you include in your shot, because as much as these can help make a great shot, they can also very easily ruin an image. The supporting cast are there to elevate the hero in the shot not to take over. Number 4, incorrect lighting styles. Whether you're using natural light or studio flash, the last thing you want to do is just use front-on lighting for food photography. This type of lighting is one of the worst for food photography and product photography in general, as it results in a flat, boring image. As you'll see in many of our food photography classes, I often use side or backlighting, as this helps enhance the texture and form of the subject. Think about what modifier you're using, especially if you're photographing glossy or reflective objects like berries, and what sort of lighting you want to create. Soft lighting can work for food photography, but you need to be careful that the image doesn't appear dull. As you'll see in many of our food photography classes, I tend to use more sparkly lighting or a combination of hard and soft light. You can further control the light using flags to block light in some areas of the image or reflectors to add extra light where you need it. Let's take a look at some of the images from the critique where some people struggled with this. It's just overall well too soft. This is your original image, and even by trying to do a bit of burning and dodging to make more shape on the croissants to give them a more three-dimensional feel, even with me doing that, it's still very soft and low contrast. There's not enough shape to the light. But look at our highlights here. I mean, we're completely blown out, white going into white here. Can't see the separation of that cup from the plate that it's sat on, or the serviette that the plate is sat on as well. Milk is also going out. Too flat, I'm afraid. Overall, the lighting is so soft, so bland, that we have no bite or energy or dynamics coming to that cake or tart. It's hard to get a burger to stay in position, but it was as dull as dishwater before. And now it's got a bit of ping to it. But the hero didn't have quite enough pop for me, so I just added a bit of zing. A little bit of zing to the top of the hero. Number 5, the wrong depth of field. A shallow depth of field is a common technique when photographing food, but it isn't the rule. While it can look nice and help isolate the subject, don't get caught out by having too little depth of field, as this can detract from the narrative and the message of your image and leaving the eye nowhere to travel in the shot. The best depth of field depends on the angle you're shooting from and the size of your subject and the message that you're trying to convey. For example, both the feta cheese and ginger and lime tea images were shot at f5 on a 35mm camera, while the duck image was shot at f11. There's no single ideal depth of field. There is only what is ideal for the story that you're trying to tell. Let's take a look at some examples from the critique. Quite a strong horizon that's quite sharp, and these pots in the background quite sharp as well. So what I did was I just softened all this out, as you'll see. Now I defocused using Gaussian blur, made it look like the depth of field was shallower to bring the depth of field down so that the pots in the back are less distracting. It's almost like they're not meant to be the main thing of the shot because they're not actually in focus. It's as if the bowl of fruit is the main thing in the shot. So again, it's about these sort of messages and mixed messages. What are we trying to say with the photo? What is the picture about? You can see I've defocused the bread rolls to make them softer, as if the depth of field was shallower. I've done that artificially with a Gaussian blur. Taken the contrast down, defocused the front, defocused that handle and taken the contrast down. And what we end up with now is a less scattered arrangement of the lighting and the depth of field, and we end up with something that then draws us more to the burger and more to the item of importance. The only thing I would say is that potentially I think the depth of field could have been a little deeper, just to reveal a little bit more texture and a little bit more information about the pie in the background. Number 6, unnecessary distractions. I've already mentioned choosing the supporting cast of your image carefully. And while unsuitable or unnecessary props can be a distraction, so can bright highlights, busy backgrounds, or awkwardly placed items. These are small but meaningful distractions that can have a big negative impact on the final image. To control unwanted highlights or bright spots, consider using flags to block some of the light. If you're shooting on location and the background is too busy, make sure to remove any distracting items. If you're working in a studio, make sure to choose the right background, one that won't distract from your subject but will help enhance it. Pay attention to the placement of your props. Look out for groupings that become too strong or arrangements that look too regimental. Even a simple fork placed at an awkward angle can ruin a shot. Here's some examples from the critique. A few things that are wrong with it are that there is more attention being given to these red things on the table and these blue glasses than there is to the main pot of food, because these are very high contrast items, bright red colours against a white neutral background, bright deep blue glasses, white table, high contrast, and then when we go in here everything's a bit sort of dull. It's not, it's not winning, it's not the hero in the shot. So I just made some minor changes here to switch that around. The arrangement I felt was okay, but what on earth possessed you to put a blue towel in the corner in that type of rustic shot? I got a bit of rope competing for attention on the edge of a tray. Then I didn't know which was the tray, whether the tray was the mesh thing or the wooden thing. I had to assume it was the wooden thing based on the direction of the handle. So what is that? What sort of table is it on that's got like that mesh thing? It doesn't look like tablecloth. Then the food, it was just a bit confusing, I'm afraid, overall for me. There were key things that were causing us not to focus on the primary hero in the shot. Number 7, not shooting tethered. If you can, and you probably can, shoot tethered. Shooting tethered is not a difficult scenario. It just requires the correct cable and can even be done using Lightroom or the camera's own software. This will allow you to see much more than if you're looking at the image on the back of your camera. You'll see in all of our food tutorials that Anna and I work tethered, even when we're shooting on location. Popular tethering software includes Lightroom and Capture One, but as I mentioned, you can also shoot tethered using your own camera's software. Nikon users, for example, have Nikon Camera Control Pro, while Canon users have Canon EOS Utility. Although initially it might require slightly more effort to set up, shooting tethered really is the best way to properly see what you're shooting. You'll be amazed at how much easier it makes the composition and lighting stages of the shoot, and to spot fine compositional details that need correcting. All of these points are covered in more detail in our food photography critique show, as well as in our food photography courses. If you'd like more food photography tricks, from how to make food keep its shape, to how to keep it looking fresh, or how to make backgrounds that give your shots a professional look, then visit our full range of classes. I hope you found this information useful, and thanks very much for watching.